My brother was the perfect son. Then I found out what he did to me. My name is Sam, I'm 26 years old, and I haven't spoken to my family in 2 years. Not because I don't love them, but because I finally found out what my brother did. Let me back up. If you asked anyone growing up who had the perfect life, they'd all say my brother Caleb. He was 4 years older than me, varsity athlete, student council, prom king, straight A's, you name it. My mom used to say, God gave me an angel and a question mark, whenever she compared us. You can guess who the question mark was, but I didn't mind. I worshipped Caleb. Every kid wants to be like their older sibling, and I was no different. When I was little, I used to follow him around like a duckling. He taught me to ride a bike. He stood up for me in middle school. He even convinced my parents to let me stay up late to watch The Lord of the Rings. Caleb was my best friend, my only real friend, honestly. I wasn't popular. I had weird teeth and used too many big words, and I spent most of middle school hiding in the library. But Caleb? He made me feel cool by association. His friends would ruffle my hair and call me Mini Caleb. I loved that. Until I didn't. The first sign something was off. I think the first real moment I questioned Caleb was when I was about 13. I had a friend named Micah, the only real one I made that year. He liked video games and graphic novels, and we clicked fast. We'd hang out almost every afternoon, either at his place or mine. One day, Micah stopped talking to me out of nowhere, just ghosted me. I'd text him, call him, try to sit near him at lunch, and nothing. He acted like I didn't exist. I remember crying in my room, trying to figure out what I did wrong. I even asked Caleb what I should do. He shrugged and said, "Some people are just flaky. You'll make better friends anyway." At the time, I believed him. But years later, I found out Micah had called me multiple times. He'd even shown up at our house once after school. But Caleb answered the door and told him I didn't want to be friends anymore. I didn't believe it when Micah told me in college. Why would Caleb do that? Because he was obsessed with you, Micah said. Not in a good way. I brushed it off. Caleb was overprotective, sure, controlling even, but obsessed? Not necessary message. College and the distance. After high school, Caleb went off to Duke with a full ride. My parents couldn't have been prouder. They hung his acceptance letter on the fridge for 2 years. No joke. I stayed in state at a smaller school. My GPA was decent, and I finally started making real friends, especially after joining the school paper. For the first time, I had space. I was finding my identity. I even got my first girlfriend, Leah, a photography major with a crooked smile and way too many tote bags. I didn't tell Caleb about her at first. I'm not sure why. Maybe because I knew how he'd react. Eventually, I mentioned her during Thanksgiving break. We were walking around the block, and I brought her up casually, like it wasn't a big deal. He stopped walking. "You have a girlfriend?" he asked, like I'd told him I had a secret child. Yeah, Leah. She's cool." He didn't say anything, just kept walking. 10 minutes later, he asked if she was sleeping with anyone else. Out of nowhere. I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. "You're too trusting," he said. "Girls like that don't pick guys like you unless they're getting something out of it." That stuck with me longer than I care to admit. The first real break. The summer after sophomore year, I moved back home briefly. I'd just gotten out of a bad breakup. Leah cheated. Turns out Caleb was sort of right. And I thought a few weeks with family might help. Big mistake. Caleb was home too, taking a gap year to work with some startup before applying to grad school. He was always working late, but he still found time to ask me everything about where I was going, who I was with, and whether I was getting distracted from school. At first, it seemed like concern, but then he started reading my texts. I caught him once holding my phone while I was in the shower. He claimed he was just moving it off the counter. Then one night, I came home from a friend's party around midnight. Caleb was waiting in the living room, sitting in the dark like a scene from a horror movie. "Who were you with?" he asked. Just friends. We watched a movie." "Which movie?" He grilled me for 10 minutes like I was a criminal. When I tried to walk away, he stood up and blocked the hallway. "I'm just trying to protect you, Sam." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I packed my things and moved back to campus early. Even though I had to sleep in a dorm basement for 2 weeks, I didn't come home for Thanksgiving that year. My parents didn't see it. My parents thought I was being dramatic. "Caleb's just intense," my mom said. "He's always been that way. It's because he loves you." Love shouldn't feel like surveillance. But I didn't have the language back then. I hadn't heard terms like emotional enmeshment or covert narcissism. I just thought I was being ungrateful. I mean, Caleb had done so much for me, right? So I minimized. I forgave. I moved on. Until I found the binder. The binder. 3 years ago, Caleb moved to Seattle for work. I was living in Boston at the time, sharing a place with a friend from grad school. We were both trying to survive off ramen and freelance gigs. One night, my mom called and asked if I could help clean out the old house. They were downsizing to a condo and wanted help sorting through Caleb's room. I almost said no, but something told me to go. I flew home, took an Uber straight from the airport, and started boxing up Caleb's old stuff. Trophies, college textbooks, photos, normal stuff. And then I opened the bottom drawer of his old desk. There was a black 3-ring binder labeled Samuel. I opened it. Inside were pages, dozens, of printed screenshots. My emails, my texts, even old Facebook messages, some of them from when I was 14 or 15. There were notes scribbled in the margins, like, "Seems anxious, possibly depressed," or "Should avoid ex-friend, bad influence." There was even a chart mapping my daily habits: sleep, meals, library visits, hangouts, all recorded. I flipped through it in silence, my hands shaking. At the back of the binder was a letter, printed and dated 2 years prior. "I've kept track of you all these years to protect you. You're not built for this world. You're soft, naive. You trust people who don't deserve it. I do what I do because I love you more than they ever could." I sat on the floor of his room for a long time, staring at those pages. That night, I didn't sleep. I confronted my parents the next day, showed them the binder. My mom went pale. My dad told me I was overreacting. "He's just organized," he said. "You always needed guidance." That was the last time I visited home. 2 years later. I haven't spoken to Caleb since that trip. He's reached out, emails, messages, a voicemail where he cried and said he was just trying to be the brother I needed. But I don't need surveillance, I need boundaries. Therapy helped. So did time. But there are still nights I wake up and check the locks 3 times. I still feel watched sometimes. Like he's always one step behind me, waiting to fix me again. There's so much more I haven't said yet. What Caleb did next? That's the part I haven't told anyone, not even my therapist. I left off at the binder, the one labeled Samuel, filled with years' worth of surveillance notes and observations my brother Caleb had written about me like I was some case study. I wish I could say that was the worst of it, but it wasn't. Not even close. The email that changed everything. A few months after I found the binder, I was back in Boston, trying to forget everything. I'd blocked Caleb on everything: Instagram, email, even LinkedIn, but I'd forgotten one. An old student email I'd used in college. I hadn't checked it in years. One night, I was looking for a PDF of an old paper I wrote, so I logged into that account. There, in the inbox, was a single email from Caleb. It had been sent 6 months prior, meaning it was written before I even found the binder. The subject line? "Do not read unless you're ready." My stomach dropped. I almost deleted it, but of course I didn't. The body of the email was short. "One day you'll find things that make you hate me. Maybe you already have. Just remember, I always saw the bigger picture. If you're reading this, I probably lost you. I didn't want that. I only ever wanted to protect what was mine." What was mine? I read that line over and over again. That's when I noticed the attachment. A zip file, password protected. Now, here's where it gets weird. The password? My middle name plus my birthday. I tried it on a hunch. It opened. Inside were over 40 folders, each with my name, labeled by year. 2009, 2010, 2011. Each folder had photos, recordings, transcripts, and videos. The footage. I don't know how to say this without sounding insane, but Caleb had recorded me. Not just like, oh, here's a family video of Sam at Christmas. I mean, he recorded me when I didn't know I was being watched. There was footage of me in my room, at 16, 17, even 21 years old. I'd be reading or on my laptop or brushing my teeth. In some, I'd be asleep. I know what you're thinking. Hidden cameras? Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I recognized the angle. There was a tiny smoke detector above the bookshelf in my old room. I always thought it looked off. Turns out, it was a Wi-Fi camera. There were hundreds of files, but one stood out. It was labeled, The Intervention, Final Plan. I clicked on it. It was a video of Caleb, talking to the camera, like a manifesto. Caleb's confession. He's sitting at a desk, low lighting, dressed in a button-up like he's about to deliver a TED Talk. If you're watching this, then you know everything now, or you're about to. Either way, I need you to hear me out. His tone is calm, eerily calm. You don't see the world the way I do, Sam. You never did. You think people are good, that love is unconditional. But I've seen how easily you get hurt. People take advantage of you. He sighs, rubs his hands together. I had to make the hard choices. I had to be the villain, because no one else was going to protect you. He leans closer. I intercepted messages. Yes. I made sure you didn't hang out with the wrong people. Yes. I watched you because I had to. Because you were drifting. Then the words that burned into my brain. You were slipping away from me, and I wasn't going to let that happen. Not again. Not again? What happened when I was 6? I called my mom the next morning. I asked her if anything weird happened when I was a kid, like very young, before middle school, maybe when I was 5 or 6. She was quiet. Then she asked, "Why are you asking about that now?" I said, "Because I think Caleb remembers something I don't." She hung up on me. 2 hours later, I got an email from her. All it said was, "You were 6. You went missing for 3 hours. We were at the lake house. You were found crying behind the shed. You didn't speak for a day. Caleb told us you got lost. We believed him." I stared at that for so long I thought my eyes would bleed. Therapy brought it back. I didn't want to remember, but part of me needed to. I went to trauma therapy, EMDR, somatic processing, the whole deal. It took 6 months before anything surfaced. But when it did, it came fast. I remembered the shed. I remembered a blue sleeping bag. I remembered being told to stay quiet. I remembered the sound of Caleb's voice. Calm. Firm. I remembered crying. I remembered being cold. I remembered promising not to tell. But most of all, I remembered a hand holding mine, so tightly it left nail marks. The police said no crime. I tried going to the police. They said there was no physical evidence, no witnesses, nothing current. "I'm sorry," the officer said, "but unless there's a direct confession or proof of criminal activity, there's not much we can do." So that was it. Caleb had manipulated me for most of my life. He'd isolated me, controlled me, violated me, and the world just moved on. I cut contact with everyone. My parents refused to pick a side. My mom cried and said, "He's still your brother." My dad said, "You're being dramatic again." So I blocked them all. I moved cities, changed my number, closed all old social accounts. I even legally changed my name, first and last, started over. But I still don't feel safe. Because sometimes, I swear, I catch someone watching me on the train, or I'll get a call from a private number and no one speaks. Or a letter with no return address will show up at my door with just one word. Missed you. I don't know where Caleb is now, but I think he knows exactly where I am. I thought cutting off my family would be the end of it. I thought disappearing, starting over, legally erasing my identity, changing my name, address, everything, would keep me safe. But the past doesn't just stay buried, especially when someone like Caleb is the one holding the shovel. Why I'm writing this now. I never planned on telling anyone what I found. Not the journals, not the footage, not what happened when I was 6. Honestly, I didn't think anyone would believe me. Caleb was the golden boy. Straight-A student, football captain, volunteered at animal shelters, never so much as a parking ticket. But that all changed last week. I was walking back to my apartment in Baltimore. I don't use my real name anymore. I go by Nate now. I work in IT, remote job, no social media, no paper trail. Even my landlord doesn't know my full history. Anyway, I was 2 blocks from home when I noticed something odd. A dog, sitting in front of my building's entrance. Now, normally this wouldn't be weird, but this dog was the exact same breed and color as the one we had growing up. A golden retriever named Buddy. Same red bandana, same floppy ear. The dog stared at me like it knew me. It followed me up the steps, tail wagging, eyes wide. When I reached the door, it barked once, then trotted away. That's when I noticed it. A note taped to the inside of my mailbox. Handwritten, 4 words. Still keeping you safe. The next message. A few days later, another envelope appeared. This time, it was slid under my door in the middle of the night. There was no name, no address. Just a single Polaroid photo. It was me, sleeping, in my bed, taken from inside my room. I tore the place apart. No hidden cameras, no signs of forced entry. I even pulled the fire alarm to get the building evacuated, just so I could ask neighbors if they'd seen anyone suspicious. Nothing. That night, I slept in my bathtub with a kitchen knife under my pillow. The flash drive. 3 days later, I got an envelope in my building's front office. Inside was a USB drive. No note, just the drive. I don't know why I plugged it in. Maybe I needed to know how far he'd go. There were 2 files. One was a video labeled, "For You." The other was a PDF titled, "Timeline." The video. It opens with Caleb. Again. Same smug expression, same soft voice. He looks a little older now. Eyes tired, beard unshaven. Still wearing that same button-up shirt he wore in the last video. "Hi, Sam," or Nate, I guess. He chuckles. "I always admired your creativity. You were always good at running, but not hiding." He leans in. "I'm not mad. I'm proud of you, actually. You lasted longer than I thought." He holds up a photo, my college ID from 5 years ago. "But you forgot one thing. You can change your name, your number, your city, but you can't change your face." He sets the photo down. "You're wondering why I sent this. I'll tell you. I need your help." Help? There's someone after me. I thought I could outmaneuver them, but they're smarter than I gave them credit for. I need you to come home. He smiles. "I have something to give you. Something I took a long time ago. Something that belonged to you." He stands, walks out of frame, and the screen goes black. The timeline. I opened the PDF. It was a detailed account of every major event in my life. It started from when I was 5. Every school I attended, every friend I ever made, every teacher I liked, even my first kiss. The file ended with an entry from 2 weeks ago. Nate visited corner store at 9:37 p.m., bought gum and NyQuil. Returned home at 9:52 p.m., wore gray hoodie, alone. That entry was exactly correct, word for word. The stranger in the stairwell. 2 nights ago, I heard footsteps on the fire escape outside my apartment. I grabbed my phone, turned off the lights, and peeked through the blinds. A man was standing halfway up the metal stairs, wearing a dark hoodie, face obscured. He wasn't moving, just standing there, like he was listening. I didn't breathe. I stood there frozen for 5 minutes. Eventually, he turned around and walked back down. I called the police. They came, looked around, found nothing. But they did find one thing, tucked under my doormat, a single red bandana. Breaking point. I called my mom again, for the first time in over a year. She didn't answer. But a few hours later, I got a voicemail. It was her, crying. She said, "Sam, please, he's not well." She said Caleb had gone missing 2 months ago. She said he emptied his bank account, abandoned his house, left a single note. "I'm going to finish what I started." I tried calling again. No answer. That same day I got an email. From a new address, no name, just one line. Your guardian angel is waiting. And an address. The address. It was a house, one I didn't recognize, in rural Pennsylvania, about 3 hours from me. I don't know what came over me. I went. I don't even remember driving there, I just needed answers. The house looked abandoned, boards on the windows, overgrown lawn, but the front door was unlocked. Inside was dark, dusty, and freezing. But in the center of the living room was a single object. That same smoke detector camera from my childhood room.
It was wired to a small monitor. The monitor was on, and it was showing a live feed of my bedroom.
What now? That's where I am right now. In that house. Writing this from my phone. Because upstairs, I found something else. A new binder. Same as before. Only this one is labeled Phase 2. Nate's turn. Inside, a printed copy of this very Reddit post. Dated 3 days before I wrote it. My brother died on a Tuesday. He was 29 years old. He died in a car crash. Head-on collision, middle of the night. No drugs, no alcohol, just a tree and an empty road. He died before I could confront him, before I could scream at him, before I could ask him why. You'd think I'd be sadder. You'd think I'd be in pieces. And maybe I was. But grief and rage are strange bedfellows. They share the same bed and stab you in different places. Let me rewind. After I found the files in his laptop, the recordings, the emails, the photos of me asleep, unaware, I couldn't breathe for hours. He wasn't just my brother. He had been watching me, tracking me, manipulating everything from behind the curtain like a puppet master in a mask. He was supposed to be the golden child, the med school-bound, volunteer-giving, always smiling older brother who carried our broken family. Instead, he was a monster with perfect teeth. I didn't go to the police, not immediately. I felt like I was living in a snow globe someone shook too hard. I didn't know what was real and what wasn't. I barely left my apartment. The paranoia clawed at me. Was there more I hadn't seen? Was someone else involved? Had he told anyone? Were our parents in on it? I installed a new deadbolt. I stopped answering calls. And then his car crashed. Dead on impact. Just like that. The funeral. It was like a movie. Black suits, empty sobbing, my mom shaking so hard I thought she might crack apart. My dad just stood there, staring into space, like his perfect painting had just been ripped in half in front of an audience. I kept wondering if anyone else knew. They were all crying for the son they thought they knew. But I was standing over a coffin holding the secrets that would burn this entire family to the ground. I didn't cry. Not then. I kept imagining him in that casket, smiling that too perfect smile, thinking he got away with it. What he did, I guess I should tell you, the whole truth. He wasn't just spying on me. It wasn't about curiosity or control. He was sabotaging me. For years. I found the fake resumes, ones he sent anonymously to places I'd applied, pretending I had lied on my applications. I found the text messages he'd sent to my exes, pretending to be me, that ruined relationships I never understood why they ended. He'd told one girl that I'd cheated, told another that I had a porn addiction. One he told I had schizophrenia. All lies, all sent from burner accounts. He reported me to my university once, claimed I was plagiarizing. I almost got expelled. And somehow, he made me believe I was just unlucky, like life just didn't work for me, that I was cursed with failure and rejection and broken relationships. And all along, it was him, my brother, the one who gave me advice, the one who wiped my tears when I failed my first test, the one who walked me home when I got dumped at a party. He was undoing me while pretending to hold me together. For what? Jealousy? Some God complex? Mental illness? I don't know. And now, I'll never know. Because he's dead, and all I have left is the story no one believes. The letter. A week after the funeral, my mom gave me something. Found this in his room, she said, eyes swollen. It's addressed to you. My hands went numb. I opened it. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even an explanation. It was a justification. You always had something I didn't. People liked you without trying. You failed and got forgiven. I succeeded and no one clapped. You were chaos. I was order. And still, they pitied you more than they admired me. I wanted you to earn your pain. I dropped the letter. I couldn't read the rest. He didn't think he was wrong. He thought he was teaching me, like he was a god, and I was a flawed creation he needed to fix. Burn it down. I wanted to tell my parents. I wanted to stand in the middle of that perfect house, with the pictures of him in graduation robes, with the trophies still on the shelf, and scream every truth I found. But I didn't, because I saw how broken they were. My mom had lost her favorite. My dad had lost his legacy. And me? I'd already lost everything. What would the truth do now? Would it bring him back? Would it undo the damage? Or would it just destroy what little they had left? I stayed silent, and that silence became a prison. Therapy and paranoia. I went to therapy, started telling a version of the truth, but I couldn't even say his name. I'd say my brother, and my throat would close like a trap. The nightmares started. In them, he's alive. He's standing in my kitchen, or under my bed, or sitting in the back seat of my car, just watching, always watching. Sometimes he whispers, "You're still not good enough." Other times he laughs. I wake up, sweating, gasping, crying like a kid, and then I go to work like nothing's wrong, because life doesn't care that you're grieving a ghost who tried to ruin you. The girl I told. There was one person I told everything to. Her name was Kaya. She worked with me. She had bright red hair and never smiled unless she meant it. One night, after a few drinks, I told her everything, every awful secret, and she didn't flinch. She just sat there, listening, eyes wide, quiet. Then she said, "He can't hurt you anymore." I nodded. Then she said, "But you're still letting him." I didn't sleep that night, because she was right. He was dead, but I was still living like I was in his shadow.
The recording.
2 months ago, I got an email from an encrypted server. Subject: "You should hear this." It was a voicemail. From my brother, sent to one of his friends, some guy I didn't know. It said, "Sometimes I wonder if I push too hard. I keep waiting for him to fight back, but he never does. Maybe that's the problem. He's a blank canvas, and I can't stop painting." It chilled me. Even in private, he didn't regret it. He saw me like a toy, a blank canvas. He didn't love me. He studied me. I wasn't his brother. I was his project. Now I live in a different city now. Got a new job. Kaya moved here too. We're figuring it out. Some days I feel normal, other days I hear his voice when I'm alone in a room. I still haven't told my parents. They talk about him like he was a saint. They bring him up every time we talk, and I smile and nod and let them have their version of him. Maybe that makes me a coward. Maybe it makes me kind. I don't know anymore. Why I'm writing this? Because I need someone to know the truth. Because I want to scream in a place where no one knows me. Because I want to say, finally, out loud, the perfect son was a monster, and I was his favorite toy. And now that he's gone, I'm free. But freedom has a cost. It looks a lot like loneliness, and it sounds a lot like silence.